This is not a crime story. This is not an ordinary accident. And it is not just a simple case of people getting lost in the woods. In February 1978, 5 men disappeared into the high, frozen mountains of Northern California. What happened next is one of the most baffling, tragic, and disturbing mysteries in American history. This is the story of the Yuba County Five. The 5 men were more than just acquaintances. They were a brotherhood. They lived in Yuba City, California, a quiet, hard-working town where everyone knew their neighbor. Their names were Gary Mathias, Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, and Ted Wire. They ranged in age from 24 to 32. All 5 men had mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions, but they were far from helpless. They were independent, they were responsible, and they were deeply loved by their families. Each man had his own life, his own job, and his own rhythm. Gary Mathias, a veteran, worked at a local furniture store. Jack Madruga was a skilled driver who had served in the Army and now delivered newspapers. Bill Sterling spent his days working at a grocery store, a job he took great pride in. Jack Hewitt was a regular at a community workshop, always eager to learn. And Ted Wire worked in maintenance, a man known for his kindness and his strict adherence to his daily schedule. Their families described them as creatures of habit. They didn't like surprises. They didn't like breaking their routines. They were predictable. They were careful. And above all, they were not adventurers. They were not the kind of men to wander off into the unknown. On the night of February 24th, 1978, the group was filled with excitement. They were huge fans of the UC Davis basketball team. That night, the team was playing an away game in Chico, about 50 miles north of their homes. They piled into Jack Madruga's turquoise and white 1969 Mercury Montego. They were dressed in light jackets, expecting a fun night and a quick drive back. They watched the game. Their team won. They were happy. After the game, they stopped at a local convenience store in Chico to buy snacks for the road. Snickers bars, Pepsi, and some snack cakes. The clerk at the store would later remember them. They seemed normal. They were laughing. They got back into the car and began the drive home to Yuba City. It was a straight, easy drive. They should have been home by midnight, but they never arrived. Hours turned into a long, cold night. By dawn, 5 families were paralyzed with fear. These men didn't stay out late. They didn't miss work. They didn't forget to call. The search began immediately. Police officers started with the route between Chico and Yuba City. But there was no sign of the Mercury Montego, no skid marks, no accidents. Several days later, a breakthrough came, but it only made things more confusing. The car was found, but it wasn't on the road to Yuba City. It was found 70 miles away, high in the Plumas National Forest. It was on a remote, dirt mountain road far above the snow line. The car was abandoned, but it wasn't broken. When investigators examined the vehicle, they were shocked. The car had plenty of gas. The engine started perfectly. It wasn't stuck in the snow. In fact, 5 healthy men could have easily pushed it if it had been. The keys were gone. Inside the car, the wrappers from the snacks they bought in Chico were neatly piled. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, no broken glass. It was as if they had simply parked the car and walked away into the freezing, pitch-black forest. But why? Why would they drive a low-clearance sedan up a steep, snowy mountain road in the middle of the night? A road that led to nowhere. A road they had no reason to be on. The weather that night was brutal. A winter storm was howling. The men were wearing only light clothes. They weren't prepared for the mountains. Search teams, including the National Guard and mountain experts, moved in. They used helicopters, snowmobiles, and search dogs. They braved feet of snow and sub-zero temperatures. But for months, the forest gave up nothing. The men had vanished like ghosts. It wasn't until June, when the thick snow finally melted, that the horrific truth began to emerge. A group of motorcyclists found a U.S. Forest Service trailer, a small cabin used by hikers. It was located 19 miles away from where the car had been abandoned. 19 miles of walking through deep snow in the dark during a storm. Inside the trailer, they found Ted Wire. He was stretched out on a bed, wrapped in 8 blankets. He was dead, but he hadn't died the night they disappeared. The autopsy revealed something chilling. Ted Wire had lived in that trailer for an estimated 8 to 11 weeks. He had lost nearly 100 pounds. His feet were severely frostbitten, turning black with gangrene. But here is the part that makes no sense. The trailer was stocked with enough food to feed all 5 men for months. There were dozens of cans of military-style rations and dried food. Only a few had been opened. There was a full tank of butane gas outside that could have powered the heater and kept the trailer warm. The heater was never turned on. There were matches and wood nearby. No fire was ever lit. Ted Wire had starved to death and frozen to death while surrounded by food and the means to stay warm. In the following days, more grim discoveries were made. The remains of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found about 11 miles from the car. They had succumbed to the elements early on. Jack Hewitt's remains were found by his own father, who had joined the search. Only his bones remained, scattered by animals. And then there was Gary Mathias. His shoes were found inside the trailer where Ted Wire died. This means Gary had reached the trailer. He had been there. But Gary Mathias himself was never found. Not a bone, not a piece of clothing. He disappeared into the wilderness and was never seen again. The investigation was filled with bizarre leads. A man named Joseph Schoens claimed he was on that same mountain road that night. He said his car got stuck and he suffered a heart attack while trying to push it. He claimed he saw 2 sets of headlights. One was the men's car. He said he saw a group of people, including a woman holding a baby, walking in the lights. He cried out for help, but he said they ignored him and turned off their lights. Was he hallucinating from the pain of his heart attack? Or did the men see something that terrified them? The theories are many, but none fit the facts. Did they get lost and simply panic? Some suggest that because of their intellectual disabilities, they may have been rule followers to a fault. Perhaps they didn't open the food in the trailer because it didn't belong to them. Perhaps they didn't turn on the heater because they were afraid of breaking it. But that doesn't explain why they drove up the mountain in the first place. Did someone chase them? Did they witness something they weren't supposed to see? Some believe they were following a light they thought was a house, only to be led deeper into the trap of the forest. The Yuba County Five remains a haunting puzzle. It is a story of 5 friends who went to a basketball game and ended up in a nightmare. It is a story of missing keys, untouched food, and a silent forest that refuses to tell its secrets. For the families, there has never been closure. Only the echoing silence of the Plumas National Forest. 5 men went into the mountains. They had every chance to survive. They had a working car. They had a cabin full of food. They had each other. And yet, they died. The truth of what happened in the darkness of February 24th, 1978, died with them. It remains a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't hiding in the woods, but in the inexplicable choices we make when we are afraid. What do you think happened to the Yuba County Five? Was it a tragic series of mistakes or something more sinister? Leave a comment with your theory, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most unexplained cases.